Hi, and welcome back to another product review. This time with us, we have Simon Lidberg, who is Director of Advanced Analytics at Microsoft. Simon, welcome.
Thank you very much.
So happy to have you here.
Yeah, happy to be here. So really excited to be here and talk about Microsoft Fabric, which is the next generation of our analytical platform from Microsoft.
Yes.
So I've spent 24 years at Microsoft working on analytical solutions. And I mean, it has been very hard to put stuff together. I mean, we earlier today saw the entire analytical landscape where, I mean, you have thousands of components to select from. And I have worked as a practitioner. I've worked as a chief architect for our consulting organizations, and I've put together a lot of these complex solutions. Now, it takes time and a lot of effort.
Right.
So that is what we are trying to address now with our next generation of analytical solution called Microsoft Fabric.
Yes.
What we want to do is move away from like where you have to select each of the components and do a lot of integrations between the components yourself.
Right.
So this is a new platform that we presented that covers essentially the end-to-end scenario around data and analytics. So that is ingesting information, so connecting to different data sources. It's doing all of the data engineering. So the platform contains a powerful Spark platform. It's doing all of the data science. So having that platform where you can do your experiments, where you can govern them using MLflow and other components. But I mean, also the data warehousing solution.
Right.
Data warehousing is still going to be here. It's something that was introduced in the 60s.
Right.
I don't believe that it will go away, and we don't either.
Yes. Yes.
But what we're seeing as well is also the emphasis on doing stuff more real time. I mean, that's certainly something that I get from customers that I talk to. All the companies in like industrial companies wanting to connect their manufacturing solutions, they want real-time data. All of the retail companies, they want real-time data. So that is becoming a very big component as well. But I think that the foundation that this platform came from was the visualization components. Because, I mean, in the end of the day, you have the need to really, really visualize your information in a good way. So Power BI has been our visualization engine for years.
Yes, very popular as well.
Yeah,
right?
So what we wanted to do was we wanted to build on top of that, making sure that we can actually get end users the access to the data in the end.
Right.
And another component that we also have integrated into the platform is making real-time alerts. I mean, I don't know if you work with data in this way. You typically don't want to go in and look at the dashboard every day or run a query.
Yes.
What if you could get the results of it sent to you directly when something changes? So getting notified when something has happened.
Yeah.
So that is one of the components that we are actually adding to the platform. It's a component called the Data Activator. And you have the ability to set up an alert and then also decide on how you want to react to that alert.
Right.
Do you want to call an API? Do you want to get like a Teams message in Microsoft Teams? Do you want to get an email? Do you want to page somebody on a pager? I mean, all of that can be configured in Data Activator. But it also comes down to how we store information. I mean, I personally come from the background of relational databases. I worked with that technology for almost 30 years now. And it's a great technology, but it is not the main technology when we're talking about today's need for storing information.
Right.
So what we're trying to move away from is the proprietary storage methods that we have had in the platform over to an open format.
Right.
And we call that OneLake.
Yes.
So that is one of the components that we want to move over to. Data governance is also a really, really important scenario. I mean, it's like if you have data, but you can't govern it, what could you do? I mean, that's tremendous risk for you and for your organization
Yes.
if you don't know where data is.
Yes, and it's becoming even more and more crucial now when we are moving into applied and generative AI. Right?
Absolutely. I mean, it's like, if you don't know where your knowledge is coming from,
Right.
I mean, like, who knows?
Yes.
And I mean, if we're looking at the LLMs, you build LLMs, you use Copilot on your own data, but you don't have the governance that says that you are allowed to see what the LLM is seeing.
Yes.
I mean,
and
you,
knowing where
yeah,
the
you
data
will get
is.
data leakage.
Yes, exactly.
So integration with our data governance solution called Purview is of an essence.
Right.
So this is a platform that we have been working on for quite a long time. And when we started working on it, we said, okay, we're going to have like 4 pillars that we're going to use for our development. The first one is that everything should be a complete platform. So that is one of the things that we have done. So what we have as the platform is the possibility to essentially do everything from data ingestion all the way to visualization. And what we have done is we have ensured that it's like you have the possibility, depending on who you are, to switch between different personas. So if I am a report developer, I mean, I can go in here and I can work as that using Power BI.
Right.
If I want to do data integration, I do have that capability through the Data Factory solution. If I want to do data engineering, that's where I can access my Spark environment and work with that. And if I have the data warehouse where I need to have a fully transactional T-SQL compatible data warehouse, then I do have that. So depending on who you are, this platform really becomes the platform for you. So let's say that I'm a data engineer. I can switch over to that experience, and then I can work with my lakehouses, ingesting all the information into an open format. I can work with my notebooks, my Spark jobs, define my Spark environments, and so on, and really, really do massive data processing. But at the same time, I mean, if I'm a data visualizing person that visualizes data, I can move over to my Power BI environment and I can work with that. So that is one of the key capabilities that we did work on. The second pillar that we did work on was what I said around making sure that the platform is open and focused on an open format.
Right, that was one of my questions.
Yeah.
Because it's very important.
Yeah, because I mean, it's like in the end of the day, even though that we think that this is a platform that really covers the end-to-end scenario, we do understand that we will not be the only platform in a company.
Right.
So one of the key things that we wanted to focus on was making sure that we have an open data lake delivered as part of this. And it should be open at every layer. So what we have done is we have made sure that it actually uses the same APIs that we have been using in the past for our Azure Data Lake Storage Gen 2.
Yes.
We have made sure that what we move away from is the complexity that you have had to maintain when you have built your own data lake. The other thing that we wanted to make sure was we wanted to make sure that we also used an open format for storing data. So I mean,
what does it mean? Open format?
So what it means is that we have actually adopted Delta Parquet as a core foundational format for every single engine within Fabric. So let's say that I'm going to stand up a lakehouse. So if I go into my environment here and I provision a new lakehouse, I have the capability of storing information in different formats.
Right.
So obviously, I can work with anything that I have here in my files format or file section of the data lake. So XML files, or
yes.
I could work with CSV files or Delta files or anything that I can work with this. But in the structured section of my data lake, that's where I work with Delta as my primary format. So if I look at this table and I look at the view the files, you can see that there is no proprietary storage format. Everything is stored as Delta Parquet.
Right.
So that means that we have an open format.
Right.
So if you are storing your information in one lake, I mean, you can access the information from any type of tool that can connect to Azure Data Lake Storage Gen 2, which every tool on the market can do.
Yeah.
And you can consume the data from any tool that understands Delta Parquet, which essentially every tool on the market does. Now, as I said, one of the things that we have done is we have made sure that you can actually also access the information using the different engines. So we're using the same storage for all of the engines. So if I'm a developer that wants to use a Spark notebook, what I can do is I can go ahead and create a notebook. And I can run my notebook. If I press run here, and I hope that everything will work, the demo gods are with us. I mean, within just a number of seconds, I will get the Spark session allocated for me. I will run the code, and then, so the session started here in 10 seconds. There is no infrastructure for me to provision. I can just run it, and I can get the result back.
Right.
Now, we do understand that not everybody is a Spark developer.
Right. And that is very important because as we are moving now the intelligence more towards the edges, we have more business domain users starting using data analytics. And,
Now, what most of the business users know how to use is SQL.
Yes.
I mean, everybody knows SQL.
Yes. Yeah.
Everybody has run a SQL code. So what we can do is we can actually go ahead and from my lakehouse, switch over to a SQL Analytics endpoint.
Right.
So the SQL Analytics endpoint essentially is there. And I can run SQL queries directly against my data that I have in my lake.
Right.
So I don't need to do any imports, anything. I just can press run. Same thing here. There is no infrastructure for me to provision, nothing for me to do. I can just press run, and immediately will start running the query and send the results back to you as a user. So in this case, this query, we're actually reading 50 gigabytes of data to run this query. And you can see that we did get results back in 11 seconds. And the reason why it took 11 seconds is because I run it off my mobile phone, so that's why.
All right, cool.
So usually it's like a couple of seconds that we get the results back.
Right.
So what we wanted to do was ensure that every single engine is essentially running the information.
Right.
Now, people may ask then, okay, that sounds all great, but what do I need to move all my data into this one lake thing to really get it to work? And the answer to that is actually no. What we have done within one lake is we have done created the possibility for you to bring in your data virtually without creating a copy of the information.
Right.
So let's say that you have information in Azure Data Lake Storage Gen 2. You have already created your data lake there. So what we have the possibility to do is do something which is called create a shortcut. So that is essentially just a virtual view into the data where it's stored. Now the cool thing about this is that we're not like putting boundaries on us with just Azure. We're actually enabling Fabric on top of every single cloud platform that is on the market.
Yes.
So I have the possibility of creating a shortcut to my data that is in Amazon AWS or in Google Cloud Platform. And I can actually use Fabric as a way of doing my analysis without moving the data at all.
Right.
So, which is a great feature.
Great feature, indeed.
And we are building up that capability to actually include it into more platforms. But as you can see, most of the platforms here are actually file stores. What about data that we have in our databases?
Right.
So one of the things that we're trying to do is also make sure that we remove the need for doing ETL. So I have the possibility of actually connecting to these databases and create a read replica without creating ETL on the Fabric side.
Right.
So that will actually bring in data from every single database that is on the market. That is our plan. And create a consumption replica over in Fabric. without the complex task of doing ETL.
Right.
So that is one of the key capabilities that we're adding over time to this platform as well.
Super great.
Now, what about AI? What about Copilot?
Well, this was one of the most desirable topics today, right?
Yeah.
And at the conference. And what you're going to be demonstrating right now has been
sure.
one of the highlights. So
Yeah.
that is true.
So one of the things that we wanted to do was make sure that we actually add the power of generative AI to every single experience within Microsoft Fabric.
Right.
So that is the experience for the developers. That is also the experience for the end users.
Yes.
So I just wanted to show you really, really quickly
Exciting.
one of the co-pilots that we have added to. So it's Power BI.
Right.
So I mean, if I'm going to build the Power BI report, the way that I would do is I would connect to a semantic model that I have. So here you can see I have my semantic model here.
Right.
And the next thing that I would need to do is I would need to drag and drop my different visualizations
Right.
that I want to have.
Depending on how you want the report to look like, right?
With Copilots, what I can do is I can instead work with prompts. So here I say I've written a prompt here that says create a report that shows channel sales by channel and call it channel sales.
Right.
And now when I send this, we're sending the prompt over to Azure OpenAI together with also the data that I have in my semantic model, where it actually analyzes this prompt and says, okay, I can identify and infer that channel, that's probably the channel dimension that I want to look at. Sales, that is probably the fact table that I have in my sales data. And what it will do now in a couple of seconds is that it will create a report for me. And it's a real Power BI report that I can use then for continuing my development.
Right.
So what it means is that, now we actually got it created. What it means is that I will actually have the starting point for this. So let me...
Exactly, and it is a starting point. This is very important, right?
I mean, it's not the replacement for a good report developer.
But it shortens the time and it gives you ideas, maybe even of things that you haven't thought through, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Now, what I can do is I can also start to actually use Copilot to give me some more information. So let's say that I want to remove this visualization.
Right.
And instead, so I remove these two. And what I can do is I can actually add a new visualization called a smart narrative. So what the smart narrative does is actually using large language models to analyze my information.
Right.
So I can create a narrative here and say, give me an executive summary. And I can say, I want to now create this. And what this will do is it will actually analyze the information that I had in my report, and it will then look at that and say, okay, these are the summarization of the data that I have in my report. So if I close this now, you can see that, I got the description of everything that was visible here in the report, with links, with highlights. And this is the power of really adding generative AI to this platform.
So I have been using this for some time, and I think that is really, really something that is exciting because it shortens a lot of time, but it's almost like having a co-pilot that you can actually bounce idea with and improve it all the time. So it's also like a coach and a learner and a teacher to some way. So I think it's really, really interesting where we're at this point of time.
And for me as a developer, I mean, I can save so much time on stuff that I've been had to do manually before. So I just wanted to end with this slide, which is like showing you the entire end-to-end platform of Microsoft Fabric and what we're trying to do with this. Simplify it, make sure that its data is ingested in a good way and up to date. So without the burden of actually handling all the infrastructure.
Right. And when it comes to usability, we will see features which are basically already ready on the shelf, so people can actually simplify it from the beginning.
Absolutely. So what we are adding as well is industry templates
Right.
for you. So if you're a retail company, we will actually give you an analytics solution for a retail company. If you're working in healthcare, we have that. So,
Yes.
so that is one of the things that we're building as well.
Super exciting, and I believe that that is actually where we are going with the future as well. I think the power needs to lie in the business domain users and those that are a little bit less technical, let's call it like that, and their usability and innovation needs to depend on something that they can depend on as well. So thank you very much for this. This was fantastic to see, and I'm very happy to see it here.
Thank you
so much.
for inviting me. Thank you.
Thank you.